So good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for making time to be with us here tonight. My name is Jamila Jordan, and I am the Equity Director for the county. We have a full house here tonight, so we're really excited that you all made some time to be with us and that you all are interested in being a part of our participatory budgeting process. And so we are recording this meeting, and we'll put this up on our website as soon as we have the closed captioning added to it. And, we have a small enough group where it'd be great to hear from you all, just who's in the Zoom room with us tonight. So if you wouldn't mind just sharing your name, and if you're representing a particular organization, that would be great. So I'm going to go ahead and first pass it over to the members of our team, and then we'll pass it on to all of you. And I'll start with Manny.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Manny Benitez. I'm the Administrative Services Associate at the Office of Equity. I'll pass it over to my colleague, Gary.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gary Besser. I'm a project manager with the Office of Equity. And I'll pass it over to, how about Shane?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Shane Kinlock, and I am one of the grant writers, and I'm going to kick it over to Erica.
Hi, everyone. My name is Erica McWhorter. I am also one of the grant writers. How about Suzanne?
Hi, I'm Suzanne Sadowski, and I live in the San Geronimo Valley, and I'm on the Commission on Aging for District 4, Supervisory District 4, Dennis Rodoni's district.
Welcome, Suzanne. Thanks for being here. I got your voicemail, by the way. Let's kick it over to Don.
Hi, everyone. I'm Don McCrae. I'm an independent consultant. I am working with two nonprofits on my project, Youth Transforming Justice and Opening the World.
Thank you, Don. Let's go over to Zhang-Li.
Oh, hi. Hi, my name is Chong Li, and I'm working with the Multicultural Center of Marine and Asian American Alliance of Marine. Thank you. And
Welcome.
and Joni, I think this is his name.
Johnny, can you come off mute?
Yeah, Kirsten. Oh, I think he has it on the mute.
Oh, Johnny, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Thank you. So my name is actually Chris DeGabriel. I'm representing Joni tonight. Joni has developed a social emotional learning program for young students, preschool through third grade. And she's a seasoned teacher, 30 years in Marin County schools, and has taken this social emotional program that she used in the classroom onto a digital video program that she's hopeful could be used throughout the county to help young students develop their social emotional skills. It's got a toolbox of various activities and tools. But the neat thing about it is she's also an artist and a performer and uses puppets, song, and dance to teach these tools to the students in very short videos, and also teach the teachers how to use that. So she's developed a whole curriculum and is interested in how that might be utilized throughout the county.
Okay, thank you for that. And you said your name again was?
My name is Chris DeGabriel.
Okay, great.
I'm Joni's lesser half. How's that?
Yeah. Great, thanks, Chris. Welcome. Let's kick it over to Mira.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Mira Guidi. I work at the Marin County Cooperation Team as a Director of Development and Operations. And we are focused in Marin City, and we have 3 pillars: safety net services, youth empowerment programming, and community coalition building. So great to be with you all.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mira. Let's kick it over to Kristen. Kristen's joined by my friend there. Hi there, friend. Good to see you.
Hello, I'm Kristen, and this is Ebony, and we're working together on Our Sisters Keeper, located in Marin City,
which is a women's support group.
Great. Welcome, Kristen and Ebony. Good to see you both. Let's kick it over to Yolanda.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Yolanda Barahona, and I'm in the board of director of Espacio Community Digital Magazine. And we're working here in Canal area with the Latino people. And we're working too in Guatemala and El Salvador. Like try to connect the diaspora or the immigrants with their countries.
Wonderful. Welcome, Yolanda. Thank you for
Thank you.
joining. Let's go to Adam. Adam Miller, are you here with us? Can you come off mute and introduce yourself? Okay, you may have stepped away. Let's go to Brandy.
Oh, he's back. Oh, Adam's back.
We can hear you, Brandy.
Hi, my name is Brandy Wright, and I'm the Director of Development for Casa of Marin. We recruit, train, and match community members across Marin County with foster youth in the county, anywhere from the ages of 0 all the way up until extended foster care, which would be 21 years of age. And we are looking at doing some diversity, equity, and inclusion training with our volunteers, really looking at the intersection of race, disability, and foster care for folks around accessing special education supports and services, where we understand that our Black and Latino youth are significantly disproportionately represented within our foster care population, but also seem to receive the least amount of services in Marin County.
Hey, thank you, Brandy. Welcome. Let's go to
Thank you.
LaShawn.
Hello, how's everyone doing?
Wonderful. How you doing,
Great,
LaShawn?
great. I'm doing great. Sorry for the late start, Jamila. How are you doing?
Good. Good to see you.
Wonderful seeing you. My name is LaShawn Holcomb. I'm the Executive Artistic Director of the Griot Theater Company. We're located here in Marin City and other spaces. We started about 2 years ago through a desegregation mandate between Marin City and Sausalito, where we were a nonprofit and we started to spotlight Marin City youth. And we just grew past that. Now we're the Brown and Black pipeline for artists in Marin County. And so we're just, trying to create education and training and job opportunities for our Brown and Black artists in Marin County, specifically in Marin City.
Great. Welcome, LaShawn. Thank you for joining. Let's kick it over to Ala. Oh, we see you, Ala.
Hello,
Yes.
hello, everyone. My name is Ala Krell. I'm Chief Financial Officer for Brandeis Marine. Brandeis Marine is 503C corporation in Marin County. We provide independent education. We are a private school, and we're looking for the opportunities to expand our programs and to invite students from Marin City, Novato, and Western Marin to our school. And that's why I'm here.
Welcome. Thank you, Ala. I'm going to go to the chat for a moment. I see Kyle LaRue has put in that he can't talk now, but he's the director, or they are the director of Zero Waste at Conservation Corps North Bay, which is a paid conservation-based job training program for young adults in Marin and other counties. Great to meet us here tonight. Let's kick it over to Marianne. And Marianne, I see you came off mute, but we can't quite hear you if you're talking. So we'll come back to you, or you can put it in the chat. Let's go to Abigail.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Abigail Esquivias. I work with Social Justice Collaborative. We're a nonprofit based in Berkeley, but serving all of Northern California and the Central Valley. We provide direct legal services to immigrants with low income and specialize in deportation/removal defense with an emphasis in language access, cultural sensitivity, holistic services, and digital literacy. It's really nice to be here with you all.
Great. Thank you, Abigail. We're going to try Adam one more time. Adam, are you able to come off mute and introduce yourself?
Greetings. Hello, my name is Janina Miller. Sorry, not Adam. I'm Ukrainian-born American, and I teach here in Marin County. And for about a year, I've been doing Ukrainian American story times with our librarians for Ukrainian children in the war zone, and I also find out a huge gap in access to like Ukrainian literature or any spot for community in here. And basically like all Ukrainians in Marines, they have to go to San Francisco or somewhere else, and we don't have anything in Marines that would be permanent. And I just recently discovered the grant program, so I would like just to see what it is about.
Great, welcome.
Thank
I
you.
think that's everyone. Marianne has noted that their audio isn't working, but Marianne Kwitek is a volunteer grant writer for North Bay Children's Center of Novato with programs for infants who are 6 weeks old through pre-K. And they have locations at 12 different locations throughout the North Bay. So got a really great group here tonight, everybody. Again, this is one of our application workshops. And so we're really here to share some information with you and answer questions that you may have. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so this is the third in our series. We've had a couple of others so far. We cover the same thing in each meeting for the most part. And today's agenda is to just give you a brief description of what is PB, what is participatory budgeting. We call it PB for short. We'll also talk about an overview of both the stage 1 and 2 grant applications. We'll give you more information about the voting process and how that works. And then we'll talk about what's coming next in our overall process. So that's what we have on the agenda here today. Briefly, I want to introduce our Office of Equity. As I mentioned at the top, I'm the Equity Director for the county, and I'm joined by my colleagues, Manny and Gary. And we are the small but mighty Office of Equity team. Our mission is really focused on establishing the county as an anti-racist, multicultural workforce, and we are committed to accountability, community engagement, and transformational change. And I want to focus in on that community engagement aspect for tonight, because that's what PB is really all about. So what is participatory budgeting, or what is PB? And we define it as a democratic process where community members really decide how to spend part of a public budget. And what we really love and appreciate about PB is that it gives people real power over real money. And the first PB process, believe it or not, took place back in 1989. So it's been going for many, many years now. And it actually started in Porto Alegre in Brazil. So it's an international origin. And since then, it's really spread throughout the world and also here in the United States. And so we see communities like New York and Chicago, very big cities that have taken on PB initiatives. We see smaller cities such as Durham, North Carolina, Greensboro, South Carolina. Some of our neighbors here in the Bay Area, such as Oakland and Vallejo. We also see a lot of schools and community colleges that have done PB processes to really better understand what's important to their students, to their faculty, and their staff. So we know that sometimes we have limited dollars, and PB is a great way to hear directly from the community as to what's important to them. So we think about it as really direct democracy in action. So I want to share here just a brief video, and my colleague Manny is going to bring this up for us. So get excited, and this will share a little bit more about what PB is all about. Manny, please take it away. Great. So with that, everybody, I'm curious, were there any reactions to what you saw in the video? What came up for you as you watched other communities engage in the PB process?
Community participation.
Community participation. Tell me more, Jean.
I think people who vote and they know what they like to do, see it. I think that has much more powerful input on those things, I believe. So that's why I think community really need to get together and participate. That's what I think.
Yes, you said that beautifully. Thank you, John. Let's go to Joni.
Actually, it's Chris, my husband.
So thanks. That was really a great video. And we're coming in a little bit late in the game, trying to make a phase one proposal. But has there been like a community fair on what? That's what I noticed in the video. Has there been a community fair on so that the general population can see what folks may be proposing?
Not as of yet. That'll be later in the process in the voting stage, Chris. And so we'll
Okay.
cover that a little bit later, but that's a great question. We'll come back to that.
Thank
for
you.
sure. Let's go to Yolanda and then Don.
I can see taking account the population and to see what necessity they have or what ideas they have to implement locally, and taking account the diversity, because I saw very different people over there, and that is a rich.
Yeah, thank you for that, Yolanda. A lot of diversity was shown in that clip. Let's go to Don.
I really like the community participation part of this. I think it's really valuable. But a question occurs to me is how do you separate it's how do you separate popularity from impact on the community this way? And what comes to mind is the best of Marin. A lot of best of Marin is how many of your friends can you get to vote for your business, which doesn't necessarily reflect the strength of the business. It reflects your ability to gather a whole bunch of people to vote for you. And so how do you, I noticed in just going through all of the projects that there were some really, what I perceived to be really valuable ones that didn't get a whole lot of votes. They were down near the bottom of the list. So the question is, how do you balance popularity versus real community impact?
What a fantastic question. And we're going to speak more on that in a moment, Don. I want to hold that for now, but we're certainly going to come back to it because I think that's really something important to address. And we have some slides that'll speak to that. Let's go to Suzanne.
Thank you. I was really impressed with the video, and I was particularly happy to see that my hometown, New York City, was part of this process. Oakland, another big city that's part of the process, and the management of that scale is pretty daunting to me. And I'm trying to figure out how that, to bring that down to a community in West Marin, which is a much smaller scale, but has equal importance of need for diversity. So even in New York City, we've had a real challenge in making our community diverse.
Yes, thank you so much for that, Suzanne. So we're learning a lot from some of these other communities that have launched PB efforts, and a lot of their promising practices and strategies are things that we're adopting here in the county. So let's get into it a little bit. I want to share what we're doing here in Marin County. See if it'll let me. Okay, so we want to share just briefly what are some of our goals with PB, and it's being led by the Office of Equity, as I mentioned, and we have some very specific equity-centered goals. One is overall to improve the county, to make this a better place to live, work, play, and pray. We also really see it as a way to expand civic engagement and not just hearing from some of the usual folks who come out to board meetings or community meetings, but instead to identify new voices, to really develop new community leaders, to hear from voices from people who may not traditionally participate in civic processes. So that's another really important goal for us. And then ultimately it's about equitable public spending. And instead of placing decisions solely in the hands of our elected officials, this is a way for the community to decide how they want to spend part of a public budget based on what they see as the needs. So those are some of our goals as it relates to PB. We have $2.5 million, everyone, to fund community-initiated projects that really advance equity. And I think it speaks to Don's question a moment ago of which projects will have impact. And so we really want to make sure that we have an evaluation criteria that makes sure that impact and outcomes are really key parts of how we're evaluating projects. So we have this $2.5 million, everyone, and it comes from our federal ARPA grant, and ARPA stands for the American Rescue Plan Act. And so this is a pot of money that we have available to pilot this PB effort here in the county. This is the first time we've ever done something like this in Marin County. So as I mentioned, we're learning a lot from our neighbors like Vallejo and Oakland. Vallejo is in their 7th PB cycle right now. And so certainly have been leaning on them to share what's working, what's not, and how can we really go about it in a smart way here in Marin County. And one of the things that we're doing is to prioritize communities that are historically marginalized, communities that have some really significant disparities in terms of race, economy, health, et cetera. And so we're using a tool called the Healthy Places Index to help us really understand where those communities are. And so for communities that score under 70 on this index, they include Marin City, they include parts of West Marin, parts of Novato, parts of San Rafael, including the Canal. And this Healthy Places Index is really just a data set, and it uses a variety of indicators, such as the overall health of a community, the existence of comorbidities, the number of graduation rates, for example, the quality of air, the quality of water, the incarceration rates, the median income, for example. So it looks across a variety of indicators, and that's what we're using to really understand how can we target these resources in communities where the needs are the greatest. So that's a really important part of our process. And it's not to say that you can't propose a project for anywhere in the county. You certainly can. However, we're giving additional priority and score points to the communities where projects exist here. So something for you to think about as you develop your projects. And Manny has put that link in the chat for you all if you're curious about what that Healthy Places Index is all about. So we have a 5-part process, everyone, and I'm going to talk to you about all of them here tonight, but I really want to hone in on where we are today, which is the develop and refine proposals. And we use proposals and applications somewhat interchangeably, okay? So we're at the application phase right now. But first, what we did is we wanted to brainstorm ideas. We wanted to go out into community and ask them the question of, what would you do with $2.5 million to advance racial equity in the county? What would you do with this money to improve your neighborhood, to advance equity in your community? And you would be astounded by all of the great ideas that we heard from community members. So we were out in community centers. We had a huge event back in February. We've been on numerous meetings, presenting. We've been out at grocery stores, soccer fields, libraries, asking people this very question of what would you do with this money to improve your community? And we also were online. So we wanted people to participate from the comfort of their home or from their mobile phone, if that was their preference. So we were both in person and online. And I want to pause here for a moment just to show you some of the various responses that we got from people. So let's see if I can dig this up. Here we go. And so if you go to our website, and we'll put this in the chat for you, we have this tool here, everybody. And this is our online tool to collect these ideas. And it's available in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese. And if you look on the right, you'll see all of these ideas that we heard from community members, right? So people were able to go in and put their ideas down. And this was what Don was referencing a moment ago. So we heard things like transportation in West County, an Indigenous healing center. We heard about a community pool, school gardens, Marin City Arts and Education Centers, outdoor recreational gyms designed for older adults, reparations being a key topic, better incomes for nonprofit workers, youth mental health services, for example, increasing the living wage ordinance, A lot of programs geared around youth for arts, culture, sports, things of that nature. Financial literacy programs for everyone, right? So these are the different ideas that we heard from people. And as you can see, the list goes on and on and on. So we've heard hundreds of ideas, and these ideas received thousands of likes from your fellow community members. And to give you an example of one, I'm going to click here. And you were able to see not just the idea, but where they thought that this idea should live. Where exactly should it be placed? So this one, for example, is a Latino community health house. And they describe it as designed to provide access and health resources to the Latino community and have equitable recovery for all. And they have a couple of photos that they've uploaded here that you can see to really help bring it to life for people, right? And then from there, everyone, you're able to see some comments as well. So people are speaking about how they support this idea. They say, be sure to include services for older adults. Let's see here. They're saying, what else are they saying here? A lot of it's in Spanish. Ellas siempre ayudan. They always help us. And the street is giving information. All right, so Canal Alliance is a great organization, and we support this idea they're saying here. So this just gives you a flavor for what people are saying, and they were able to click here and like the idea or put a comment on the idea, okay? And to Don's question a moment ago, you can see on the right here, everyone, there are some likes that people have given it. But I want to be clear in saying that the likes don't equate to votes, right? These are just likes. We're not in the voting stage at all in the process. But this is a way for us to understand which ideas are most important to some community members, which ideas are rising to the top. And so you can still, by all means, you're still welcome to click this icon here, share my project idea, and it'll take you to this, this page here, and you can just put in your own idea if you don't see it represented, okay? So we're gonna keep this tool open, and we're also gonna share this tool with our departments as well. So every idea won't be funded through PB, but we're going to share all of these ideas with our other departments so that they may use these ideas to fund. They may fund it with their own money, their own department money, right? So just something to keep in mind if your idea isn't funded through PB. But I want to bring us back to our PowerPoint show here to just keep us going. So as I mentioned, we heard hundreds of ideas. They received thousands of likes. And it was really a powerful way for us to understand what's important to community members. And so now we're at the point where we want to turn those ideas into applications, into grant applications, right? That's the next step in the PB process. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about stage 1 and stage 2. So we have grants available ranging between $10,000 to $250,000 available for you to take and make your idea happen, okay? What's really important to keep in mind is that you have to have a 501c3 or a 501c6 as your partner in the project, or you have to have a fiscal sponsor who is your partner in this project. And that's because we as the county can't just give money directly to Suzanne, for example, right? We can't just give money to Don. Instead, we have to go through a fiscal sponsor or a nonprofit partner. Now, let's say you don't have a fiscal sponsor and you think, well, darn, I have this great idea about a bike lane in my community. I just need somebody to be my sponsor on this. And so we've kind of done the work for you in that regard, and we've identified a few sponsors who can support you in this work. One of them is Marin Link, and the other is the Center for Volunteer and Nonprofit Leadership. So you can reach out to either of them and just send them an email and say, hey, we'd like to partner with you. Would you like to partner with me? And lots of people are partnering with these institutions for their project. We also have a team of grant writers to help you with your application. And many of them are on the call here today. And so if that's something that you want to take advantage of, you can do so. And I'll tell you more about that in just a little bit. And I also want to come back to Don's question a moment ago around how are we evaluating these projects, really, and so for us, it's about need, right? Is there an identified need from the community that your project will fulfill? Is it feasible? We're giving grants available for a 2-year window. So can you complete the project within 2 years? Can you complete the project with the money that you're requesting? Right? So if you need $1 million and you are only going to get 10,000 from PB, how are you going to fulfill that gap? And so that really speaks to feasibility. And then impact is the other one. So what are the outcomes of your project? How will this transform or improve the community where your project is located? So these are some of the things that we'll be thinking through as we evaluate the projects. So we have a 2-part application, everyone. The first part is stage 1, we call it, and we're doing it on a rolling basis, right? It's very brief. It's very easy to fill out. It's primarily multiple choice. And we ask that you just get that in, okay? The first application is due by May 10th. So it's right around the corner. And I have to say, since we've been sending out messages more frequently and as the deadline nears, we're getting more and more. So it's kind of like that college application thing where you know it's due, but you're just not going to do it until, a day before, just going to get it in right under the wire. And we anticipate that. But I do encourage you to get it in early because that gives you more time to get some support if you need it, right? Gives you more time to get your stage 2 application together. So once you submit stage 1, it takes us maybe 1 to 2 days to review and get it right back to you and let you know if you can move on to stage 2, right? And so from there, stage 2 is more detailed, everyone. The questions are a bit more thorough. We have some attachments that you need to complete. So the earlier you get to stage 1, the sooner you can get to stage 2. And the stage 2 application is due on May 31st. So we now are officially in May, everybody, believe it or not. I don't know where the year went, but it's right around the corner, okay? So we encourage you to get on it if you haven't already, okay? And we have all of the application information available on our website. And I'm gonna take you there in just a moment to really show you where you can find all the information that you might need. So on our website, we have all of the application materials, including this rule book that you see a copy of or a cover image of here. And the rule book just really gives you everything you might ever want to know about PB. If you want to be an expert on PB, take a look at the rule book and you'll see everything that we want to share with you. You can also find the stage 1 and 2 applications there. You'll find our budget template and our timeline template on the website, as well as a bunch of other resources. And so it's all at pbmarincounty.org. And I'm going to stop here and just go to our website because I really want to walk you all through where you can find this information after our meeting here tonight. Okay. So here's our website, everybody. I know it looks great. And we have just a ton of information for you. This piece here is really just describing the workshops. So we're in one of the workshops here tonight. And then you go here and it has everything you need to know about the application process. So you see this part here, it says PB grant proposal application, what you need to know. And if you look right here on the left where my cursor is, you'll see the stage 1 application. So you can just simply click that and just complete the stage 1. So as I mentioned, it's really brief. And it's just a great way for us to understand what support you may need. So one of the things that we're learning is that there may be projects that are really similar. Maybe there's another person who's working on a bike lane project in your same community. So rather than competing for these dollars, we might recommend that you partner up. So maybe John and Don, they partner up on this bike lane project instead of having these separate applications, because we really want people to collaborate and partner with one another. So that's stage 1 right here. So that just helps us help you basically. And then from there, once you are approved, you can go to stage 2. And what we're encouraging people to do is to download this Microsoft Word version. So you could already see, even before you look at stage 1, you could already see, oh, wow, these are the questions that they're asking about in stage 2. So you can get a sense of, well, is this something that I really want to do? Maybe the application is something that I don't have time for, or maybe I can think through my project a little bit better now that I know what they're looking for. So I do encourage you all to just click here and you can look at the stage 2 application, okay? So once you pass stage 1, we'll send you a link and a code for the online stage 2. But in the meantime, as I said, you can just download this Microsoft Word version and look at it whenever you want to. So from there, everybody, we have a ton of resources on the website. Here's the link to the rulebook that I mentioned to you a moment ago. We also have a ton of application tips. You know, we really don't want this to be something that is confusing or hard to do. We try to make it very streamlined. We want to give you all the support that you need to be successful. We also have information about how to find a fiscal sponsor. So if that's something that you're struggling with, click that and it'll tell you everything you need to know. And of course, you can always reach out to us, but we also just wanted to make it really handy for you to see where you can find this on your own. And then we have these other informational pieces about the application. So we have our budget template and our timeline template, as well as a partnership letter template and a fiscal sponsor template. So these are things that when you get to stage 2, those are things that you'll need to complete, okay? Now, some of you may be thinking, wow, that may be a little more than I thought it was going to be, but rest assured, we have a team of grant writers who are able to assist you. Now, I want to be clear in saying they're not going to write the grant for you. That's not their job. Their job is to support you in thinking through your project and to assess how ready is my project for submission. Are there partners that maybe I should be thinking about? Am I really being clear in how I'm describing the project? What about the outcomes? Is that making sense? So things like that is what they'll help you on. And if you want that support, you would just click here and it's a super quick and easy form. And you just tell us how much support you need and things of that nature. Okay. And then from there, we'll connect you with them. I do encourage you to do your stage 1 application first, because that way you can really take advantage of the grant writers. All right. So some things for you to think about. Okay. I know Manny's putting some links in the chat for you all as well. So I'm going to keep going and I'm going to pause and just see if there are any questions. Okay. I'm going to go through a couple more slides here real quick. So again, all of this is available on our website. And then we have this really handy document on how does it work, you know, from the beginning to the very end. So we put together this graphic, which is available on our website. And we are right here in the process, everybody. So we're still really early in the PB process. And I know it might be a little hard to read this, but as I mentioned, it's in our PB rulebook. So you can see it there too, okay? So you might be wondering, well, how are you going to review the applications, Jamila? So stage 1 will be reviewed by our Office of Equity team. I'm going to pause here. Can I see a show of hands? Can you raise your virtual hand or your real hand if you've already submitted your stage 1 application? Oh yeah, raise it proud, raise it proud. I see you, Don, I see you, John. Okay, beautiful. Yeah, I see a hand from Brandy. Yeah, right on, Brandy from CASA. That's right. So we see lots of folks are turning their applications in. Okay, so I just want to encourage you all to get that stage 1 in there as soon as you can. From there, everybody, the stage 2 application will be reviewed by our Office of Equity team and our PB committee. So we put together a committee of community members from across Marin County, from each of the supervisorial districts, people of different ages. So I think our youngest person was under 20, our oldest person is over 80, people representing different races and ethnicities, different languages spoken, different lived experiences, and they're really helping us design our PB process. So it'll be our team and that committee that's reviewing the applications, okay? And the way we're evaluating them are based on completeness. How complete is your application? Do you address all of the questions? Is it clear? Is it clear and coherent? Can we follow what you're describing? And then content, right? Is this consistent with the other responses in your application? Is it consistent with our equity goals for this project, for example, for this process, I should say? So a lot of this detail is all in our rule book if you want to see more about how we're evaluating. We have some other criteria too that we're using. So for example, where's the project located? I mentioned to you that we're really focusing on some key communities in the county. Your project description, is it clear? Is it coherent? Are you thinking through how you're really going to this project? How are you going to do it from start to end? And I see my internet may be unstable. Are you all still with me? Yes? Okay. I might go off video just to save my bandwidth in a moment. But are you thinking through challenges? You know, no project is going to be easy, right? So have you thought through challenges and how you might address those challenges? And then did you do your timeline, right? So when the money is distributed to you from the end of that 2-year period, what's happening? What is your process like? So we're asking you to be really clear and articulate about that. The other things that we're looking at is who's benefiting from your project, right? So which audiences are benefiting? Is it youth? Is it seniors? Is it single mothers? Who is it, right? And then how are you engaging that audience in the project itself? So we really want to make sure that projects aren't done to communities, but they're done with communities. So that's really important to us, is engaging folks in your process. And then the funding request, right? So if you have a project that you say you need $250,000 for, but it really, you know, should probably cost more like $25,000. That's something that we're looking at, right? Because we have limited dollars and we want to spread this money around. So really be, you know, smart about how much you're requesting. And then some of the basics, you know, did you include your attachments? Do you include your timeline and your budget? Do you have a fiscal sponsor? Do you have a partner? Because I want you all to know, we're looking at the stage 2. And one of the first things that we're looking at is if you have a fiscal sponsor. And if not, then it's kind of like a do not pass go. Okay, we're going to stop the review. So I really encourage you, if you haven't already, to start reaching out to your fiscal sponsor. Make sure that they're locked in to your process, because that's going to be super important in how we're evaluating. So I mentioned to you that we have some grant writers here who are available to help you. And although they won't do everything for you, because that's not their job, they're here to provide assistance. So we really encourage you to do what you can do first. Do your homework first. Come prepared to the meetings with the grant writers. If you have some specific questions, bring those questions to the meeting, right? What type of support do you need? If it's question 8 on the application, we'll talk about that. If you need help with the budget, come prepared to talk about the budget, okay? So really make the most of your time with them. I mentioned we have an intake form, so you can just simply fill that form out and then we'll connect you pretty quickly with a grant writer to help you, okay? And I know Manny's putting some links in the chat for you all around this. So I'm going to pause here, everybody. I know that may have felt like a good amount of information, but I just want to stop here and see if there are any questions. Yes, Suzanne, take it away.
Are the deadlines hard deadlines? May 31st or May 10th?
Great question, Suzanne. Yeah, so May 10th is our upcoming deadline for stage 1. And we are going to do our best to stick to that, Suzanne. So initially, when we weren't receiving a ton of applications, our team thought, well, we might need to extend it. But then, as I mentioned to you, we suddenly got an influx of applications. So we don't need to push the deadline. Okay, we've had the applications available since February. So at this point, we really don't see a need to extend the timeline, particularly for stage 1, right? So if we find that our stage 2 applications are not coming in as quickly as we hope, then we'll think about extending that time frame. So that one is a little more flexible. But we feel like we've given folks a good amount of time to get this done, right? So that's my answer to that question. Great question, Suzanne.
Makes a lot of sense.
Okay, right on. Let's go to Abigail.
Hi, yes, thank you. I have a quick question. Do we know how the voting process is going to take place with the public? Is it going to be in person, online? Some of the work that we do at Social Justice Collaboratives, you know, language access and digital literacy, making sure that all communities have an opportunity to have a say in these kind of important decisions. So I'm just wondering how that process will look.
Thanks for that question, Abigail. I'm gonna hold that for a minute. We're gonna get to that in just a bit. Okay, so right now we're gonna cover some questions on the application, but then I'll come right back around to it and we'll cover all the voting questions that folks will have. I know there are probably lots of questions on that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Great question.
Jamila, there's a question in chat from Kyle that asks, can a local government agency be a partner on an application?
Great question, Kyle. I see that in the chat. Absolutely, they can be a partner in a project, right? So to give you an example, the Marin County Free Library is a partner in one of the projects that have been submitted, one of the applications that have been submitted. We are asking that our government agencies not serve as the fiscal sponsor, and that's because we really don't want to have the perception that we are giving the money to another government agency. That's not the goal of this project. It's really to give directly to community members and community organizations. So you can be a partner, however, you're not allowed to be a fiscal sponsor. Okay. And let's see, I see in the chat from Don, this is a really well-defined and explained process with so many very helpful resources. Thanks so much for this. Don, back at you. Thanks for that. Really feel the love there. Appreciate that. All right, anybody else? Give me some more questions here. Any questions on the application?
There was an earlier question. I'm not sure if it's been addressed already, but it was from Don as well. And his question had to do with how can you tell if an application has been approved? Stage 1.
Great question. So we send an email, and Don, you should have gotten an email from our equity@marincounty.org address. I actually sent that out to you, I believe, maybe on Monday evening, I think, or Tuesday evening. So if you haven't gotten it, check your inbox again. And if you still haven't gotten it for whatever reason, email me and we'll get it over to you. But I did approve I saw yours, Don, and you're good to go. But I want to make sure you got the email though, okay? So we try to turn those around pretty quickly because I know we're reaching the kind of our end of the process in the application. So we're not holding on to them long. We're trying to get it right back out to you. So good question there, Don. Let's see here. What else we got? Anything else, Manny, in the chat? Let's see.
No, those are the last two. Well, actually, there's a couple of new ones.
Sarah's giving some love here. Thank you for that, Sarah. Appreciate that. And let's go to Yolanda's question. Are you going to take into account and include the undocumented migrant population to participate in the voting process? Great question, Yolanda. So let's get to the voting in just a moment. Any other questions about the application coming up for people? Not just yet.
The budget process, who can help him with the budget process? What is approval and what is not? I mean, yeah, so that is kind of this, yeah. So can I call somebody to make an appointment to do? What is?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, John, great question. So the budget, right? How do you fill out a budget? I know for many of us, it may be the first time we've had to do that, and that's totally understandable. So we have that template on the website, right? There's that template that you can look at and use. But we also have this team of grant writers who can help you walk through how to fill that out. So what I would suggest, Jong and everyone, is that you click that intake form for the grant writers. Manny, if you wouldn't mind just popping that in the chat for folks again. And Jong, I would encourage you to click that right now and just fill out that brief form, and then we'll connect you with a grant writer and they can help you fill out that budget form, okay? But that's a great example, Jong. Thank you so much for asking that question. That's a great example of the type of support that our grant writers can provide to you all, okay? So thank you for that question.
Ella is asking in chat, is a fiscal sponsor required or suggested to apply for this grant?
It's required, Ella. So either you have two options. You can either have a fiscal sponsor, right? And I mentioned that we already have some fiscal sponsors available to you all. You can work with Marin Link or the Center for Volunteer and Nonprofit Leadership. Or if you have another fiscal sponsor, you can work with them, right? There's tons of fiscal sponsors out there. You may already have a relationship with somebody and you can just call them up and say, hey, I got this project. Here's this money available. Will you be my fiscal sponsor? So that's one option. The other option is for you to partner with the organization that has a 501c3 or 501c6 status, a nonprofit partner, a community organization. So to give you an example, it might be the YMCA, just hypothetically, right? You might want to say, I'm working on this project about fitness for children. The YMCA would be a great partner, the YMCA in Nevada, hypothetically, right? And you can reach out to them and say, would you be my partner on this? So you have to have one of those two, either a fiscal sponsor or a nonprofit partner. Because as I mentioned, we can't give you the money directly, Ala, right? Those are rules. Go ahead, you have a question?
Well, if I represent the companies at 501c, so we're already a nonprofit organization and we registered as nonprofit organization. We cannot apply for the grant unless we have a sponsor.
Good question. So if you are a 501c3, if you have that designation, then you're good. You don't need a fiscal sponsor.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah, it's
Sorry.
either, no, great question though. I think sometimes people get, I want to make sure I'm really saying this in a way that everybody can follow, is that it's either a fiscal sponsor or you have 501c3 status yourself, or you partner with one. Okay. Is everybody clear on that? Any other questions about that fiscal sponsor piece? And I see in the chat from Brandy, if the lead organization is the 501c3, do they need a nonprofit partner? No, Randy, that's a great question. So if you have that as a lead, you're good to go. You don't need another partner. Okay, so if you already have that status, you're good. You can apply using that nonprofit status.
There is a question in chat whether the 501c3 has to be located in Marin or can they be located elsewhere, such as San Francisco?
Great question. Great question. So we are looking for the nonprofits to be based in Marin, right? To have an office in Marin County. And that's because that's where we want the money to be spent, right? We want it to be used in Marin County. And so one of the rules is that the nonprofit be in Marin County. Now, if you have a fiscal sponsor, they may come from somewhere outside of the county, right? They may be in, say, Alameda County, right? But if you're a 501c3, we're asking that they be based in Marin County. Great question. John?
I have one more question. The participations, person who's participating in my project, some of them is from Oakland. Is there gonna be a problem then?
No.
Oh, good. Okay. Just want to make sure that, yeah.
Yeah, so as we want the majority of the work to take place in Marin County, right? But let's say you have a project that is not only in Marin, it's also in Oakland. That's fine, but we really want work to happen here in Marin County. So if your partners
happening in here, but people who are participating in is going to be all over Sonoma, Santa Rosa, Oakland. So that's what I was. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, really good question, Jung. So that's okay. But what's really important to us is that we see impact here in Marin County, right? So you can have partners from other places, and that's totally fine, but the work needs to happen in Marin County. Thank you for that question. This is great, everybody. This is great questions. Anybody else? If not, I'm gonna go to voting in just a minute. All right, well, let's keep going here. Let's bring our screen back up. So that's the application or proposal stage, everyone. And the next stage is voting, okay? And I know you all are really excited to hear about what it's all about. So the first thing that I want to say to you is that let's say we get 100 applications, right? We get 100 applications from people. And we hope we do. We hope we get a ton of interest. We would likely only have, and I'm just speaking hypothetically, but we might whittle that down to say 20 projects that get on the ballot, right? So just like we vote for our elections here for our ballots in real life, can you imagine having 100 things to vote on when you go to the voting booth? That's too many, right? We don't want for community members to have to do that because no one's going to do that. So we have to whittle that down. We have to hone that down to say 20. And I'm just throwing out the number 20. It might be 15, right? But it likely isn't going to be more than 20, I would imagine. And so we just want it to be a manageable number for people to vote on. Okay, so that's one factor in terms of what gets on the ballot is just the number of projects, right? Another factor is where the projects are coming from. So we don't want all the projects to just be from, say, Novato, right? Because that's not the point of this. The point is for this to be spreading the money across the county. So that's a factor, is the geography, where the projects are coming from. Another factor is how much money is being requested, right? So we have these grant tiers, as you see. So projects ranging from 10K to 225K, 26K to 75K, 76K to 125K, and then 126K to 250K. So what we won't do is have all of the projects on the ballot that are in the 126K to 250K range, because that means that we're not giving any love to these smaller projects that are also really great projects, right? So a $10,000 project is no less valuable to the community than a $250,000 project. So that's another factor, is we want to have a range of projects amounts on our ballot. And then another factor is the categories, right? So if you notice, if you've completed the stage 1, that we have several categories like parks and recreation. We have categories like jobs and economic development, or climate and disaster preparedness. So we want to have different project types represented on the ballot too. We wouldn't have all projects that are just arts and culture, for example. So these are things that we're thinking about as we go through and review what will ultimately get on the ballot, okay? And then you might be wondering, well, who can vote? So it's really anyone who lives, who works, who owns a business, or attends school in Marin County, okay? And we're asking that they be 14 years of age or older, right? So we recognize that our young people have some great ideas. They have their own perspective, and we don't want to exclude them from this process. We're also not excluding people based on documentation status. So I saw a question in the chat, I think it was from Yolanda, I believe, around, and let me just go back to the question. Are you taking into account and including the undocumented migrant population to participate in the voting process? So yes, we are, Yolanda, is the short answer on that. And we're going to do all that we can to reach people far and wide in the community. And then I wanted to talk to you about, how is the voting going to happen? So we'll be both in person, right? So we'll be in our target communities that I mentioned to you. So that's Marin City, that's parts of Novato, parts of West Marin, the Canal and San Rafael, right? So we'll be in person. So for example, we might be at the Novato Library. This is a shot of us here in Marin City at the Sausalito Marin City School District, right? That's where LeSean works. So we're going to be in community for voting, but we also will be online, right? So we'll have an online tool that people can use. So it'll be both in person and online. So a combination. And then from there, so let's say we get those 20 projects on the ballot, and then from there, the community will vote, right? And the community will decide. Jamila's not going to decide. Suzanne's not going to decide. The community will decide how they want to spend the money. And so from there, whatever the community decides is what will get funded. Okay. And then after that, everybody, is where, that's where the work begins, where you actually implement the projects. And that's our goal here, is to have people actually achieve their projects and make improvements in their community, right? So this is an example of a community mural that was done. And you see the folks that came together to get this mural done. They got money to do it. And look at this result. You know, people feel engaged. They have a beautiful mural to look at. And it really builds people's sense of civic pride and that they can make changes. So that's our goal, right, through this process. I'm going to stop here and just see if there are any questions about the voting that I have not yet answered.
All right, you want to raise your hand? Reactions? Where's reaction? Raise
I think it's that Kristen or Ebony. Yeah, go for it.
Hi. So my question is this. If there's, is with the voting, if it's based on the likes, is the voting based on the likes?
Great question. Let me just address that real quick, and then I'm gonna come back to you again. So no, it's not based on the likes, right? So that was just the ideas phase, right? That's not a vote. That's just for us to know what ideas are getting liked, right? So it's just a way to get people excited about the process, to get them engaged, but it's not a vote. We haven't gotten to the voting stage yet.
Who decides which application gets put? Okay, who decides what application gets put on the ballot?
Yeah, great question. So it's a combination. It's both our Office of Equity team, and then it's our committee that I mentioned a moment ago. And this committee consists of about 15 or so community members from across Marin County, right? They represent different ages, different backgrounds, different languages spoken, different lived experiences. And so they have been a part of this process from the very beginning, helping us design it, right? And so they will be the ones helping us to review the applications that ultimately make it onto the ballot.
Okay, one more question.
Sure.
Kind of with that. So is there like a certain amount throughout the people that you have that are going to be the committee? Is it equally across, like you have 3 from Marin City, 3 from San Rafael, 3 from, I mean, what's the ratio?
Yeah, good question. So we did our best to balance it across those target communities. And we also are having them do a conflict of interest form. So we recognize that these are folks who live and work in the community. And so we want to make sure that they're not introducing any of their biases or conflicts into the process. So that's something that they're completing. We have had a little bit of attrition, meaning some people have dropped out, you know, so we may started with about 25 and now we're down to about 15. And that's normal, right, in any process, because this is a long, and it takes time. People, you know, they really committed to it. So we meet every month. And we plan it out together every month, right? And so some people said, well, it's a little more than I could do right now. I'm in school, I have a baby, whatever it may be. So some people have dropped out, right? But so now we're down to about 15 or so. But these are folks who represent those target communities, okay?
This, okay, one more kind of.
Sure.
So the people who are on that decision committee, are they also participants?
Great question. So that's a really good question. So some of them, for example, may be members of an organization, right? And I'm going to say the YMCA, just hypothetically, right? And so if they're a member of the YMCA, and let's say the YMCA submits a proposal, they would not review that proposal. They would have to say, hey, Jamila, I'm on this board of the YMCA. I used to volunteer there, whatever it may be. So I would say, okay, you cannot review that proposal, right? You don't have anything to do with the review and evaluation of that. So that's why I mentioned that conflict of interest form, because it helps us know, you know, hey, you might be biased in that regard, right? And really and truly, I think we all have biases, everybody, and you all, you know, all of you here are part of one community group or another. So no one is free of having some interest, right? Otherwise, we'd have nobody on the committee. You know what I mean? Right. So, but we really are being diligent about saying, what are your conflicts? And you need to recuse yourself from looking at those applications. So we're being really diligent about that, Ebony.
Okay, well, I'm interested in being on the panel if you're, you know, lacking anybody from Marin City.
Okay, good to know. Good to know.
Also, Marin City vote for Marin City, or is it countywide?
Great question. Great question. Countywide, right? So anybody can vote on the projects. Now I will say, and I think it gets back to Don's question a moment ago of, what are we doing to make sure that the votes of, say, the wealthy, affluent community members of Marin are drowning out the votes of our more marginalized communities, our impacted communities. So is it a popularity contest? Meaning, I just know I got a lot of friends. I got this group of homeowners that I'm a part of, and I'm going to tell all my homeowner friends to go vote. Now that could happen, but we're doing our job to make sure that we're going out into Marin City and having our voting booth set up, that we are advertising and we're saying, hey, come out and vote in person, online, whatever's convenient for you. So we're going to do all that we can, but it's not unlike a regular election, right? So if President X gets the most votes, if they're the most popular, then that's who wins, right? So we can do what we can do, but it is incumbent upon the people applying to do your work too, right? To get your folks out and say, hey, this is important for my community, for our community, vote, right? So it's about getting out the vote. So it's similar in a lot of ways to a very real election. So we're learning a lot though, and we want to make sure that we have a level playing field to the extent that we can. So those are things that we're thinking about, like, okay, what can we do to make sure that we get folks to turn out in the canal, right? So I heard somebody talk about language being really important. So we're going to make sure we have staff who are there who speak the language, right? We're going to make sure that we partner with organizations who have relationships in that community to help us turn out the vote. Okay, so these are things that we're doing, but I think it's also important for you all to think about, if you're applying, who can I get to help me make sure that my project, if I get on the ballot, that we can turn out some people to vote. So these are things for you to start thinking about. It's a little premature right now because you may not get on the ballot. You may not make it that far, but it's something for you to think about in the back of your mind. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, it does. It does. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, great questions. Great questions. I'm going to go to LaShawn.
Back on. Just a quick follow-up question about the voting process. So round one, the 10th, you'll let people know if they get into round 2 and they have to submit before the 31st. So my question is, and I can ask them both together, is what's the process after that? After the 31st, oh, you're on the ballot. You have this many weeks to sort of engage with your audience or the participants. It's a participatory grant. So what's that sort of process that we will have if we know that we're actually on the ballot?
Great question. And what I'm going to do to help us answer that is go back to our PowerPoint here real quick. And I see some other questions coming in the chat. We'll get to these in just a minute. All right, let me show you this here. So as I mentioned, we're in this pink stage right here, LaShawn, and we've had this open for about 3 months now. So we're reaching the end of the application phase. And then from there, we need time to review the applications. Okay, so that's when our work really is going to continue. That's when we're going to be super busy in June and July. Because we'll be reviewing the applications and getting back to people and saying, hey, maybe we have some questions about your application, right? Maybe we might suggest that we might just give you some suggestions about how to improve it or what have you. So that's what we'll be doing in June and July. And we'll also be planning out the voting stage. So then we need to be in preparation for getting our voting booths together. Where are we going to have them at, right? Is it going to be at the Marin City Community Center, for example, or the Senior Center? Is it going to be at Vivalon Senior Center? Is it going to be at Novato Library? So we'll be getting all of that in place. We'll get our online platform together too. But that's not something for you to worry about. I'm just telling you what we'll be doing in that time. But what you will need to be doing is we will let you know, ideally in July, we'll let folks know, hey, you've made it onto the ballot, right? That's our goal, is to say by July, it's like, look, you made it onto the ballot. here are the next steps. And from there, we'll give you some recommendations as to how you can get ready, right? So we're going to be printing flyers. We're going to be printing a voter's guidebook. So just like you get a real booklet when, you know how if it's saying a local election in your community, they send you a booklet, right? And so we're going to print those booklets too, and it'll have all 20 of those projects. So it'll be like, for example, it might be this bike lane project in Novato and a picture of it and a brief description, and then how much money you're requesting, right? That will be your page in the booklet. So we'll make that available, right? And then we'll start advertising where the voting locations will be and what days will be there. Okay, we'll advertise the online tool that people can go to. So we'll start to put those things in place July, August, and then September is when we're planning on the vote. Now, this is somewhat flexible. We might get into these applications and think, wow, we need a little more time. You know, some of these require some additional support. So I just want to tell people that this is what we're hoping for. This is our best guesstimate, so to speak. But we're learning that we need to be flexible in the process. This is our first time doing this in the county. And so there may be a need to move the voting to October, for example. So, but I'm just telling you, in general, we're planning for September, October. Does that make sense? Okay. And then from there, you know, we need some time to tally the votes. We need to tally and then be able to report out to community. These are the winners. These are the people who got the most votes. So we plan to do that, you know, tentatively in November and then to release in December. So that's what we're aiming for, everybody. I see a hand from Adam, and I know your name's not Adam, but we'll come to you and then I'll come to the chat.
Hi, it's Yamina. Hi, Jamila. So I have a question about the mural project. I see that grant options first year starts from 10 to 25K. I'm just wondering, so that was a mural, so it cost them 10K to paint a wall?
So I actually don't know what that project cost. That's a project in another community. I think that's in Oakland
So it
is
can be
where that
something
project.
different, right?
Yeah, so that was not something that we funded. It was just to show you a real project that came to life because of a grant they got from PB.
Got it.
And
Thank you.
I can chime in a little bit on that, having worked with arts-based organizations to paint a mural. Yes, it absolutely can cost $10,000 by the time you get all the equipment and supplies and then bring together the artist for that project, depending on how you're implementing it. If you're doing it like youth engagement in the process, a mural on a school campus, a mural in a local park. But there's also other funding through the California Beautification Initiative for art-based projects implemented within local communities.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Brandy. And I think that's a really good example of what you all will think through when you do your budget, right? So it's like, oh, I have to think about the equipment that I need. I have to think about who's going to be my artist to design the mural. I have to think about the labor to paint the mural. I have to think about any permitting that I may need, right? So those are the things that we ask you to think through in your budget to make sure that it's feasible, right? So if you, again, as I mentioned, if you're requesting $250,000, we want to know how you're spending that $250,000. Great questions. I'm going to come to the chat now, everybody, and see what's going on here. Here we go. So I see from Don, how will you get a broad segment of each community to get out and vote? You know, Don, this is going to be our challenge. I think it's not going to be easy. I think when you look at who votes in the real election, that's hard to do too. You don't see a huge turnout of voters, even for the president, right? You know, people are apathetic in a lot of ways. And so we hope that this process gets people excited, that they want to vote. You know, we're doing all that we can to make it known. But, you know, it'll be a challenge. I'm not going to tell you any lies. I think that that's going to be something that we work really hard on. And so when I said that timeline of September to October, we may find that in order to really get out the vote, we need to push it to October, November, right? So these are things that we're going to think through more. But it will be a challenge. So we've already started to partner with organizations to spread the word. We're using our community response teams. We're using our supervisors, our board of supervisors. They're spreading the word. So we're doing what we can do. But we would ask for your help. We'd ask for you all to be our partners and to be ambassadors for this process and help us get the word out. So it'll be a combination. It can't just be all us. As I mentioned, we're 2.5 people, but we are doing all that we can, but we also are looking for you all to partner with us to spread the word. And I just want to call out Suzanne for a moment. Suzanne left me a voicemail this morning or this afternoon, and I presented at the Equity Committee for Aging recently, and Suzanne's a member of that group. And they asked, well, Jamila, what can we do to support this? This is so important. What can we do? We also want to really make sure that our senior communities know about this process. So Suzanne, can you tell us a little bit about what you've been doing to get the word out?
Yeah, I'll be happy to do that. So the San Geronimo Valley is a community in West Marin. It's not on the coast like Bolinas and Point Ridge Station. It's closer to Fairfax. It's also close to Nicasio. It's very different from the coastal communities. I happen to live in the San Geronimo Valley, and I've been very connected with community organizations in the San Geronimo Valley. And I realized after Jamila came to the equity meeting of the Commission on Aging that I'm not sure everybody in our community really knows about this process or knows about this great opportunity for us, because what our community has been aging. We want people to be able to age in place. We want them not only to have, we don't want to become a retirement community. We want to be a thriving community with people of all ages and all income classes. And we have a historic problem of not having enough people of color in our community. So with that lens, looking at that, I called a number of people in my community that I knew from various community organizations, people from the churches, the nonprofits, and then community members who I know are just engaged and wanting to make a difference. And so we started a meeting a couple of months ago, this little group of people. And then I started looking at then Jamila came to our meeting about a month ago, and I said, well, we better get moving here. And so I called people together, and an outgrowth of that has been a committee of, now we have an elders advisory council in the San Geronimo Valley that's now formed. It's not formalized yet, but it's formed. And a subgroup of that people have been thinking about this participatory budgeting process. And I had a meeting today with several people. I'm meeting with the heads of various nonprofits organizations, just so that they are aware of the process. They know what the deadlines are. And then, so some very, very interesting ideas have evolved from that process. We're going to meet again. I'm hoping to get as many individual projects written. I'm not writing projects. I'm there as a facilitator and to let people know that this is an opportunity, and to let people know that this is the time for them to express their needs. 200 words is not a big deal to talk about what you think is an important thing that we need in our San Geronimo Valley to promote equity and for people of all ages. And so that's where things are. A number of the very interesting projects have been proposed. Some organizations will be, I think the community center will be submitting applications, and individuals from various other groups will be as well. So I'm very, very excited with this. The basis is really community organization, community engagement. And that's what I think is very, very essential in this participatory budgeting process. It's a really good democratic step towards of being able to provide equity and involve people in decision making in political budgeting.
Well said, Suzanne, and thank you so much for all the work that you are doing to raise awareness about this, to get people excited, you know. It is direct democracy in action. So that's an example of the type of relationships we've been working to build, not only in the San Geronimo Valley, but in Marin City, in the Canal, in Novato, right? So that's how we hope to turn people out, basically.
Yeah. Just sitting here today, I've learned so much. I was listening to LaShawn talking about the arts programs that's going on in Marin City, and wondering if there's some way that the arts programs here in the Valley could collaborate with that organization in bringing arts, you know, from both communities together.
I see LaShawn giving some love on that. You see, we're making connections, everybody. That's what it's about. I love it. I love it. I'm going to come back to the chat here. This is from Ala. If we need $200,000 to complete our project and we would be awarded only $10,000, what will be our options? Will we need to return funds? Great question, Ala. So when you get into the application, you'll see that we ask you that. We ask you, how much will it cost to accomplish your project realistically? And then how much money are you requesting from us? And if you only get $10,000, what are you going to do to provide that other $190,000 to complete the project? So to me, that speaks to feasibility. That's what I mentioned earlier. Is this project possible with the money within the time frame? If it's not feasible, then it's probably not going to make it on the ballot, right? So I would encourage you to think about that before you apply. So one thing you can do is you can say, well, I can get maybe $10,000 through PB, but I got another $50,000 from another grant. So how can I layer the funding to make my project happen? But you have to demonstrate to us that you have that money, right? We don't want to just be your seed money. We don't want to say, well, here's your 10K. Now go out and find the rest. That's not what we're using the money to do. We want this to be a way to supplement what you already have, or to be enough to do the project on its own. So if it's not feasible, then it probably won't get on the ballot. Okay, so that's something for you to think about. So you wouldn't even get the money, so you wouldn't need to return the money. Does that make sense, Ala?
So if we have idea and we have a project in mind, and this project is expensive project, so are you saying that we would need to come up with our own funding and ask for grants? And why would we ask for grants if we have our own funds?
Yeah, so what I'm saying is that that's a very good question. What we're saying is that we would suggest you think about the scale of your project, right?
Okay.
So instead of doing a $200,000 project, that you do a $10,000 one, right? Because that's what the money you can get from PB is available, right? Between $10,000 and $250,000. So if you need more than that, then I suggest you think about, well, how can I scale my project down so that it's possible with the money that I'm requesting, right? And if that's not possible, where else can I get money to add on to what I'll get through PB, right? So there's the PB money, but let's say you got another grant through the Arts Foundation of Marin, right? Then they would be a part of filling that gap for you. So these are things that you would need to think about, right? Before you submit your project.
Okay.
Okay. All right, let's go to LaShawn, and then I'm going to come to Brandy's question.
Another question I had was about the partnership part. So like, let's say we are partnering with different organizations throughout either Marin County or elsewhere, right? Is there a certain form that we need to fill out to show that partnership, or do we just list them as our partners within the context of the grant?
I love this question. So it's both, LaShawn. So you can fill it out in the application itself, right? And then, and for stage 2, right, you can, we have a partnership template, which is basically a letter that all your partners will sign and say, hey, I'm committed to this project. I'm on board. I will be in it from beginning to end, right? And I'm going to sign my name to that statement, right? So that's what we look for, because, you know, sometimes things fall apart, right? People say, I'm actually not interested in this anymore, or I don't have the bandwidth for this. And so that letter is just one way that we can help verify that you've done your homework and you've gotten your partners in place, right? So that's the way that we would suggest you do that. Great question.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And so I see in the chat here from Brandy, so the graphic, it looks like the selected projects will receive funding in January 2024. That's our goal, Brandy. And as I mentioned, though, we have some flexibility. Some of the dates are subject to change, but that's what we're aiming for right now. So yes. And John, did you have a hand up?
Yes, I have a question about the partnership. Can their partners be in San Francisco or so? Comfort Justice Coalition is also, they can be my partners. I have a couple of partners who can do this with me, but I just thought about it, San Francisco, can they be a partner? So I have to be all Marin County partners.
Good question. So you can have partners from other locations. That's not a problem. As long as the votes, or excuse me, as long as the work is taking place in Marin County, right? So I think of projects that I do, and we have partners from all across the country who are supporting us, right? Especially now we're in a virtual world, right? So you may work with somebody in Australia, for example, but they need to be a part of the work that happens in Marin County.
Yeah, okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna see the next question here. Jung, how many times can one person vote? Great question. One person, one vote, okay? So really important, everybody. So we're doing everything that we can do to make this an honorable process with integrity. So we're putting some guardrails in place so that one person, one vote. So we have a registration process that we're designing, just like you do when you go to vote for the president, right? They don't let you vote 5 times, at least, you know, depending on how you feel about how some last elections went. But the goal is one person, one vote, okay? So we're doing things like we're requiring your address, we're requiring a cell number that we can trace back to one person, one vote. So these are things that we're putting in place. And I see Don jokingly put in the chat here, vote early, vote often. No, Don, we want one vote. But we do want you to vote early though. And then spread the word. That's what you can do. Vote early and spread the word would be my suggestion for that. LOL. Let's go to Suzanne. Excuse me.
Can you, if it's one person, can you vote for more than one project that you like?
Love that question, Suzanne. Absolutely, right? So we'll put on the ballot, let's say 15 to 20 projects will be on the ballot, and you can vote for up to a certain amount, right? So we may be up to 3 projects or up to 5 projects, right? We're still thinking through that because it'll depend on how many projects are on the ballot, right? So, but it'll likely be between 3 and 5.
Okay. The other question is, can this session, which is being recorded, be watched by people who are not able to attend the workshop?
Absolutely. So what we're doing is we are going to get this with closed captioning, right? So that people who need that can see it, and then we're uploading it. So we're just putting the closed captioning on right now, and we'll have it uploaded as soon as we get that back. So we anticipate probably by early next week, we'll have all of these uploaded to our website.
Okay, and the last question I had is is participatory budgeting something that you see will be ongoing, or is this just a one-time project?
I really appreciate that question. You know, as I mentioned, this is our pilot. And so we want to see how it goes. We want to see if this is something that community members think is valuable, if it's something that people want to participate in, do they want to get involved? and just hear the feedback really and truly. And that'll really inform if we move forward with another cycle, right? And it might change. We might not be $2.5 million. That's a lot for PB. When I mentioned to you the New York and the Chicago processes, they did it for 1 million, right? And this is a city like New York, 1 million, and we're doing 2.5 million in Marin County, right? So it may not be that much moving forward. It might be just in schools. We've seen a lot of PB processes that are just for youth, for example, right? It might be one cycle is just dedicated to schools in, say 8th grade through 12th grade, for example, right? So we're thinking it through. There's nothing finite right now. There's nothing fixed, but we really want to see, how does this go? So we're doing all that we can to make sure that it's successful.
Thank you.
Yeah, great question. I'm going to come back to our chat here, everybody, and then we're going to start to wrap it up here pretty soon. Brandy Wright can you clarify this is a 2-year grant? Sure, Brandy, great question. So when I say that, I mean that we are requesting that the money be used within a 2-year time frame. So you have up to 2 years to use this money if you are selected, right? And then after that, it's up to you to find other funding sources. We can certainly want to help people be successful with that. So we'll think about other grants that are available. Maybe it's a local, our Parks and Rec department has a grant program or what have you. So we'll do what we can to connect you and keep the money flowing. But the goal is to have outcomes within 2 years, right? So a mural is a really good example of a PB project because there's a start and an end, right? But every project isn't like that, right? Maybe your project is developing a music academy, right? And so what can you do within that 2-year period that shows results? I think that's the name of the game here, everybody, is what are the outcomes? We don't want to have, 2026 roll around and you haven't used the money or there's nothing to show for it. Because if that happens, there probably won't be another PB process, to Suzanne's question a moment ago, right? We want to show our Board of Supervisors, but more importantly, we want to show the community that this has yielded results for all of us. Okay, great question. And then I see another one. There is a partnership letter for partner organizations to complete and for you to submit your grant proposal. Yes, so we do have a partnership letter. That's what I was just mentioning to LaShawn a moment ago. And so you would just upload that as an attachment to your application. And when you get on the application, you'll see that we have a space for you to upload all of these attachments. So that's what the letter is for. And Manny's put the template there for you all. And then Brandy has another question. Will grantees need to invoice for the funding or will it be a one-time disbursement? Yeah, good question, Brandy. So it'll be dispersed over time. A lot of it will be based on what you include in your budget. So we have it by phase in the budget. So phase 1 might be your first 0 to 6 months. And there's a budget amount that you're saying, Jamila, for that budget, for that phase, I need $5,000. But then for phase 2, I need 30,000. And then for phase 3, I may only need 4. And then phase 4, I need the rest of it, all $25,000 more. So it'll be based on what you tell us you need, right? So it's not one time, unless you feel like you can accomplish everything in the first 0 to 6 months. Otherwise, it'll be over phases. Great question. You all have some fantastic questions. I can tell you're done your homework here tonight. You've been in the applications, you've been in the website. This is fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and bring our show back up and then we're going to wrap it up, everybody. So just a reminder again, we are reaching the end of our application stage. So we have 2 more of these workshops. So you can come back if you want to get some more information. You're welcome to come back tomorrow. We're meeting tomorrow, May 4th from 1 to 2:30. And then we'll have another one on next Tuesday or the following Tuesday, May 16th. And that'll be really to help people who are doing their stage 2 applications at that point, right? So we wanted to have one that's devoted to stage 2. So if you get into your stage 2 and you're like, man, I got some questions about this, come to that one, okay? It'll also be recorded, but it'd probably be good if you came to that as well. And then just to wrap us up here, everybody, again, reminders, stage 1 is due May 10th. We're going to hold firm to that deadline. So please do get your application in as soon as you can. And then that'll help you move to stage 2. And that deadline is May 31st. Okay. There's more questions in stage 2. So you want to give yourself enough time to put together a strong application. You want to give yourself time to work with our grant writers, right? So I would just say that now we're in the crunch time phase, okay? So this is it, everybody. This is the push, okay? And then our grant writers are available to support you. All you have to do is just fill out that very brief form, and they'll help you, okay? Then we'll connect them to you. And as always, you can reach out to our team, the Office of Equity, with any questions or ideas at equity@marincounty.org. So with that, everybody, I just want to say thank you so much for being with us here. Good luck, okay? We look forward to seeing your applications, and please reach out, okay? Be well. Have a great evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you.